All right, so this is Consciousness Cannot Be Separated from Function by Michael A. Cohen and Dan Dennett, who recently died. The hard problem of consciousness is an impossible problem. A goal of neuroscience is to locate the neural correlates of consciousness, the minimal set of neuronal events leading to...
Condoms are for fucking pussies.
I knew that fucking was coming. I fucking knew it. Thank you, Vipers. Leading to subjective awareness. Numerous influential theories hold that conscious experience has its own neural underpinnings that can be separated from all cognitive functions. That is attention, working memory, language, decision-making, motivation. Lumen says, I feel bad about things about that on my stream when I read one paragraph of the Nietzsche and Tanira's vote for it. Yeah, I don't feel that bad. Yeah, don't feel bad. This is how you have a stream. You don't have a stream just by doing the same thing over and over and like ignoring chat. You have a stream by engaging with chat, talking about the ideas. This is just a vehicle. The philosophy is a vehicle to, talk about the ideas. If you want to go read this, go fucking read this. But like, who cares? Like, you can spend your time reading. That's fine. But like, the point is that we sit here and we chat. Yeah. Okay. So different theories equate consciousness with different correlates. Recurrent activation between cortical areas, coalition of winning neurons, special microactivations distributed throughout the brain, or activity in the ventral stream. Although the details of these theories vary, they all assert that conscious experience and cognitive functions have distinct neural correlates. Yeah, so whatever you're doing, there has to be something that your brain is doing that is, supporting it. This alleged division between experience and function is often mapped onto the distinction between the hard and easy problems of consciousness. Under this view, the hard problem is answering the question of how phenomenal experience arises from physical events in the brain, whereas the easy problems are characterizing the mechanism supporting cognitive functions. So anyone who doesn't know what the hard problem of consciousness is, by the way, it's like you have experience. What is the experience? And how does an experience occur for you? Like, how does that happen? If all you have is like stuff going on in your brain, why is there something that feels what it feels like to be alive or to be conscious, as opposed to just doing stuff reactively? Okay, whatever. Yeah, if you ignore chat, it'd be boring. So yeah, of course. All right, so now we're discussing other stuff. In this article, we argue that from an empirical perspective, the hard problem is actually an impossible problem that inherently isolates consciousness from all current and future avenues of scientific investigation. All theories of consciousness based on the assumption that there are hard and easy problems can never be verified or falsified because it is the product of cognitive functions, that is, verbal report, button pressing, etc., that allow consciousness to be empirically studied at all. A proper neurobiological theory of consciousness must utilize these functions in order to accurately identify which particular neural activations correlate with conscious awareness. All right, so basically, they're saying, fuck you, like this is all that there is, and the idea that you're saying there's a hard problem is just, you're begging the question. The hard problem begs the question, and they're saying all there is mind and like the brain, and so they're just giving the finger to Chalmers and all the people who think that there is something special about being conscious. So they're just saying, highlighter. Yeah. So they make it impossible. Is actually impossible. So the hard problem makes it impossible. That it inherently isolates consciousness from all future scientific investigation. So it's just saying you can't have it. The hard problem of the hardest problems. Yeah, Team Dennett, Ivan Neal. Yeah. Yeah, Daddy Dennett. That's bad. Yeah, Daddy Dennett, Cinesemiotics. There you go. Get Dennett in some daddy outfit or whatever. Okay. All right, so the motivation behind dissociative theories is the belief that theories associating awareness with access cannot explain the richness of phenomenology. In other words, it is claimed that phenomenology overflows access. We experience more than we can possibly capture by cognitive mechanisms that are known to have strict limits. Yeah, so when I was talking earlier, like there's more happening in your experience than you can describe. That's fine, but that's not the same as what they're saying is that your experience has to have something in your brain. Now, of course, you can only describe so much, but that doesn't mean that like somehow what you see also exists in your brain. So they're saying the fact that they're saying, look, it has to be there. Yeah. By the way, there's some other things. Okay. Visual attention, working memory, dynamic tracking, and many Other such processes have well-established capacity limits. Phenomenology, however, is claimed to have no such limits. It is thought that when we look out onto the world, we do not only see a few attended items, we see the whole world. What the fuck does that even mean? Alright, thus it is argued that although we are conscious of a variety of inputs, we only have access to a small subset of these experiences. Here we analyze the data used to support the claim that phenomenology overflows access and show how these results can be accounted for under a pure access functional view of consciousness. We then argue that dissociative theories are inherently unfalsifiable and beyond the scope of science because inaccessible conscious states are intrinsically off limits to investigation. Within this mind, we end by describing the necessary components of a proper scientific theory of consciousness. Okay, so they're saying, look, everything you can do is in sciencey, describable by science. Everything else is just bullshit. Okay. All right. Evidence supporting the dissociation. So what's the dissociation? That's our experience cannot be reduced. It's like dissociated from whatever physically is correlated in our neuronal activity. Globus, what's up? Consciousness, easy. Yeah, it's just the easy things. We're discussing easy stuff here. But I mean, what's good about Dennett is he's he's upfront. I won't go with clear. Let's just go with upfront about what he's going to do. He's basically just going to be like, fuck you to the hard problem of consciousness. He's going to outright deny it. He's not going to undermine it. He's just going to outright deny it. He's trying to undermine it in the next section. I know he's not going to be able to do it because no one can seem to like do that. But like he's going to try. And how you doing, Globus? Hope you're well. Shout out the Globus. If you don't know Globus, go give him a follow. He talks science and not science. Well, he does some science, AI and machine learning and news related to tech with AI and the current state of like the world with how things are progressing in those areas. So it's good stuff. Lumen says, I feel totally unrelated. Need to point out that phenomenology does not mean the same thing in analytic and continental terminologies. Yeah. So that was the problem here, is that we're using the word phenomenology a lot, and then he said, like, you're supposed to capture the whole world, and I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And so it's like, yeah, we see the whole world. This may be a straw man. I don't know what that means, and so it's good that you pointed this out. It's good that I said that at the time, too. I have no idea what the fuck this means. What do you mean you see the whole world? No one sees the whole world. No one would ever claim we see the whole world when we look at stuff. Like, that's insane. Like, I can't see the other side of my screen. Like, how could I see the whole world? I can't even see 2 feet in front of me. So it's just on the other side of this plastic. Like, what's that even fucking mean? So, yeah. Okay. Evidence supporting the dissociation. What data supports the view that consciousness occurs independently of and can be experimentally dissociated from higher level functions, that is, access? The most frequently cited experiments use Sperling's partial report paradigm. I have no idea what that is. After being briefly shown a display of 9 to 12 letters, participants can only report some of the items through free recall. However, if cued to report a subset of the letters, they can report the entire subset and thus seem to have consciously perceived all of the items. According to dissociative theories, these results demonstrate that although we have access to only a few items, we are nonetheless conscious of the identity of all of them. What? So, like, I show you a few letters, and, like, if I prompt you, you tend to remember better. Okay. So what? Like, really? What could you even draw from that? All right. So, author says, so, yeah, Cohen and Danie say, although the partial report results are crucial to arguments for dissociating consciousness and function, they can be explained without this separation. Participants can identify cued items because their identities are stored unconsciously until the cue brings them to the focus of attention. Before the cue, participants are conscious only of the few letters they attended to and the impression that there are other items on display whose identities they do not know. Once the cue is presented, they are able to access an unconscious representation before it decays and successfully recall the letters presented. Yeah, okay. So what? It's like, whatever. It's like, yeah, you get prompted, you remember better. Like, all right. Although Sperling's result can be explained by appealing to consciousness without access, this is not the only explanation or the clearest. Indeed, a more nuanced notion of access and cognitive function can readily explain both the phenomenology and the results of these experiments. Okay, but again, as Lumen said and as I alluded to, what are we talking about here? Like remembering a few letters on a piece of paper that's supposed to like represent all of our experience, like a conscious experience. The fact that we can remember a few things, like how much can you really squeeze out of this? I find that odd. A multi-access model. We can look at some of the pictures. All right, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to read these blocks. I just want to get through the paper at this point. Okay, a multi-access model. Those who argue for experience without access emphasize the introspective experience of seeing a more vivid, detailed world than can be reported. Yeah, this is what I was saying earlier. World. You can explain some of it, but it's very hard to do all of it. The world is beyond focused attention, is not in total darkness. When staring intently at a single item, one is still aware of some aspects of the scene around it. Such a claim is obviously true. Dissociative theorists cite this fact as the primary example of phenomenology overflowing access. However, this is not a problem for the theories that identify consciousness with function. Okay, consciousness with function. The world beyond focal attention is not in darkness because when attention is not entirely engaged by a primary task, it is unclear if attention can ever be entirely engaged. Using psychophysical techniques, excess attentional resources are automatically deployed elsewhere. What? So like when I'm looking at something, like you start like your mind wandering or whatever, it's like you're not entirely engaged on one thing. Okay. All right. Thus, certain items are processed through focal attention, whereas others are processed via distributed attention. Yeah, so there's stuff over on the side. I can kind of see that, but I'm mostly looking at this screen here. Okay. Focal attention often leads to high-resolution percepts, whereas the percepts from distributed attention are at a lower resolution, but with certain basic elements preserved. It is inaccurate to say that information outside the focus of attention receives zero attention. Information not processed by focal attention can nevertheless be the target of other types of attention, distributed, featural, spatial, internal, and so on. DCI, I can't cancel anything that will be in the paper because that'll just fuck up the reading, but I will attempt to cancel that otherwise. Ivan says, but you see a vista, not just the area of focus and color sensitivity of the eye. I think they would be fine with that. They would say that basically that would just be part of your attention. So you see the vista, and the vista is what you are attending to. And then there would be things outside the vista. So like you see the vista like in front of you, and then there would be things that you are attending using other stuff. Now, you can see, I think this is being very sneaky. They're saying, yes, you are focused on one thing, and then they're saying, but you are also focused on everything else using a different thing, some other kind of attention. So you are actually doing all the things at once. You're just using different features of your consciousness or your mental prowess or whatever. You're just using different abilities that you have. This is covering more than they probably can argue for. They're saying you actually are seeing everything, but there's different ways of doing it. I doubt that that claim actually will hold up because it just looks like they're begging the question that you do actually see everything. They're just defining how you see differently when you are seeing it not being focused on it. Ivan says, this is the idea he is referring to, the virtual picture we see that's sewn together from eye saccades. Yeah, so it's all like, yeah, virtual picture. But like I said, I'm worried about this. Like, you're getting like a screen of everything. Like it's just like a projection in your head of everything you're looking at. But I don't really understand what this everything is actually accounting for. But whatever. Let's see where he goes. Where they go. Is this degraded visual information an example of phenomenology overflowing access? Indeed, the degraded information is consciously perceived. Yeah, see, they want their cake and eat it too. They want you to be able to say, oh, we see everything. It's just seen differently. Okay. However, the function supporting this perception is simply distributed rather than focal attention. Yeah, so they're just defining themselves out of the problem here. In fact, when attention is engaged in a sufficiently difficult task, observers can fail to perceive even coarse and degraded information, such as the gist of a scene, because of inattentional blindness. This information is undoubtedly accessed because observers explicitly report seeing more than what is focally attended. The idea that such information is indeed accessed has been recognized by Bloch. Yeah, so there's famous things in psychology. If anyone hasn't seen the basketball passing video, I saw that when I was like an undergrad a million years ago. But basically, they have a bunch of undergrads, and you're told to like count how many times the bunch of people pass balls back and forth, and other things go on in the scene, and you don't realize it because that you're focused on counting how many times the ball gets passed back and forth. It's a famous little video experiment. But yeah, I find this to be them defining it out themselves out of the problem here, because they're saying, no, you see everything, you're just seeing it with a different function. But that's us begging the question, because they're already saying you see it. Well, did you, or did something else actually overflow it? And then then they're saying, well, no, it didn't overflow it, you saw it in a different way. Well, who's actually right here? Illuminant says, I'm working at the same time, so possibly missed something, but aren't they just equivocating on C? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Physical stimulation of the retina, and C conceptualize as and take as something. Yeah, they've been equivocating on C for a while. And this is what I'm saying right here, is that they're using it in different ways. So basically, physical stimulation, they're really saying the second, what you're saying, conceptualize and take as something. So you're focused on whatever that is. That's what you're getting. So the physical stimulation is kind of in the background, but that's what they want to say. But then they had to do the secondary move that I'm criticizing them for, is that their physical stimulation is of a different type. So you're taking it as a different sort of thing because you're seeing it with your peripheral vision. This is almost a dormitive power fallacy. Yes, that's right. Yeah. It's defining how you're seeing. It's like, well, what does that thing that makes you go to sleep? Well, it has a dormitive power. You're defining it without explaining what it's actually doing. It's like, yeah, does it really make you go to sleep? Or, you're just saying, well, it has a power to do so. It's like, did you actually see that stuff? Well, you saw it with a different function. So, yeah. And that's my criticism of this thing. And, yeah. All right. Once it is recognized that distributed attention leads to degraded but accessed percepts. Yeah, see, and this is what Luminous is complaining about. What the fuck is a percept? Really? What the fuck? You have to, even if they could define it, they didn't. They can define it, but they didn't do it. So, yeah. Ivan says it's not peripheral vision, it's memory. The brain constructs a model and your phenomenal consciousness is looking at part live data and part memory. Yes, that's fine. I use peripheral just to, as a gloss. And so fine that you're calling me out. But they're using this peripheral, or what I call peripheral, as like one of these other distributed, featural, spatial, internal, and so on, other types of viewing. Like that's like right here what I was saying. And I don't have my, need to get my, do I have more annotation tools? Not highlighter. Where's my writer? All right, I'll close this. But like it was right over here, this stuff where you've got the doubled up thing anyway. Yeah, so it's this. Sorry, it's doubled up because whatever, it's fine. Yeah, this last bit of this second last paragraph. All right, is there more to incorrect? What's incorrect, Vipers? Is there more to phenomenology? Dissociative theories claim that there is a phenomenology of over and above the accessed information previously described. All right, so Ivan says the authors are attacking the claim that phenomenal consciousness is actually more than a small live feed plus memory. Okay, so they're saying, look, everything we're getting in is just defined in this way. Okay, that's fine. They're saying that, but again, that would just be begging the question in a different way. They're saying all we ever get is what we get in through the the physical features and stuff like that, which is fine. But then it's saying, all right, then you're also running into the problem with saying, well, then you've just defined everything that we do as the way you want it to be, which is okay too. But like, yeah. Viper says it's all a model. We don't sense anything directly. We hallucinate reality, and our senses calibrate the model. Okay, but I don't think that's what they're saying here. Or at least they haven't. They're just saying we have percepts. So if you mean they are hallucinations, that's fine. But then we're just, it's semantic problem there. Yeah. Okay, so maybe we just got a terminological disagreement here. But again, if they're saying all we ever have is exactly what we say we have, they haven't actually argued for that. They're just saying that's what we have is what we say. And again, that's fine, but the people on the other side are going to say, well, no, our experience is richer, and they're saying, no, that's just how experience is what we get. It's like, well, that's not actually solve the problem. Everyone's putting their foot down at this point. All right, so they ask, is there more to phenomenology than like what they say we get in? Dissociative theories claim that there is phenomenology over and above the accessed information previously described. However, various empirical results cast doubt upon this claim. In a modified version of the Sperling paradigm, where letters are sometimes unexpectedly replaced with pseudo-letters, participants still claim to see only letters. Another example of this phenomenon can be seen in Figure 2. I think that's the fishies over here. When participants are instructed to fixate at the center of a screen, two images can be successfully presented in the same location, with a blank image briefly separating the two. The drastic changes between the images go unnoticed, a phenomenon known as change blindness. If participants are conscious of the identities of all the elements of the scene, as has been repeatedly claimed by dissociative theorists, then participants should instantly notice the pseudo-letters or the scrambled image. The fact that they do not suggests that the participants are overestimating the contents of their own experience. And this is fine. There's a theory called predictive coding. 2 inches is a lot. Well, I mean, for some people, Vipers. Some people have more than others. Yeah, so if you try to stare at these two pictures down here, then apparently you will get them like sort of not confused, but your mind will automatically conflate them. That's fine. It's like, yeah. Even though people do not notice these changes, the illusion of seeing more still needs to be explained. Why is it that people overestimate the richness of their conscious perceptions? Yeah, so this is, I think, the hallucination filling in more of the gaps. I mean, I'm not like so against what y'all are saying at this point. When you fill in, when you're sort of like creating your reality, when you look at stuff, you do kind of have to, like, your brain just fills in the gaps. And so you think you're getting more. Now, the question is, do you get in exactly what is going on, or are you hallucinating it? Now we're going to have a problem. If you're hallucinating more than you see, or that you could possibly be seeing, then all right. Then I guess the claim would be that the phenomenology is of the hallucination, not of the physical experience. And that's okay, I guess. Yeah. You're hallucinating it all? Yeah, I take that. So, but the question then would be, what's the phenomenology of the hallucination? That's why the cocaine is still red, yes. Because, yeah, so Vipers is referencing a illusion where there's no red in a picture, but we see red because of whatever reason. Okay. So the question is, our experience of reality is of the hallucination, and that feels more rich than what our reality is. So again, what is the consciousness? Is that just the hallucination? Maybe, but then they still have to explain that, which I think they're trying to talk about right here. Yeah. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. Yeah, I can't sing, but yes. Another brick in the wall. The nature of this illusory experience still needs to be explained and should be the focus of future empirical work. Functionalist accounts can study this by varying the prior expectations and confidence levels of participants in a variety of paradigms. Dissociative theories, meanwhile, explain this illusion by relying on inaccessible conscious states that, at the next section describes, inherently prevent the possibility of confirmation or falsification. Yeah, so if we're hallucinating this, there's no way we can confirm or deny it. The perfect experiment. Currently, no experimental results uniquely support the existence of consciousness independent of function and access. Couldn't future experiments accomplish this? We argue that all theories of consciousness that are not based on functions and axes are not scientific theories. Okay, so they're just, hardline, you have to be able to do science. Consider perhaps the most drastic experiment possible, the perfect experiment. Imagine that, in the future, surgeons are able to isolate the parts of the visual cortex that represent color while wholly preserving their activation patterns. After the surgery, the area involved in color perception, we'll call it V4, visual area V4, inferotemporal cortex, behave normally but are simply unable to project to higher brain areas. Perfect isolation. Although the color areas are isolated, all other visual areas, for example, motion, luminance, object recognition, etc., are untouched and project a higher level of recognition in a normal manner. Such a clean separation of one aspect, color, of visual perception is profoundly unrealistic, but this idealization provides a simplification that is revealing of the key flaw in the theories that dissociate function from consciousness. So, again, so you can only, they're making you basically see in black and white. Just because they've isolated color. Okay. According to the theories discussed above, or possible theories based on experience-function divide, whatever is necessary for color consciousness will be preserved in these color areas. If these theories are mutually exclusive, then we can imagine a different participant for each particular theory. All that matters is that we do not allow these isolated areas of supposed type of phenomenal consciousness to interact with other cognitive functions. When shown a colored apple, what will our hypothetical participants say? They will surely not say that they see any colors because the areas responsible for processing color have been isolated from higher level areas, including language production. They will be able to identify the objects as an apple because the visual areas responsible for all other aspects of visual cognition are intact and connected to these higher level regions. Thus, they are simply color blind. We can imagine them saying, I know you say my color areas are activated in a unique way, and I know you believe this means I am consciously experiencing color, but I am looking at the apple, I'm focused on it, I'm just not having any experience of color whatsoever. Yeah. Okay, so they're saying, look, we're making you colorblind at will. I don't know if you can do that. This may have actually begged the question in the sense that they've reduced the hard problem to, the technically easy problems, which is like separating out the individual functions of the brain. Again, they have denied the hard problem, just like to core. They're just getting rid of it. And now this is just substituting the easy problem of, say, color perception, which of course is not that easy, but the so-called easy problems, and saying, well, okay, maybe we can just futz with this one easy problem separate from all the other ones, and what does that show? But again, this shows that they've denied the hard problem. That's all that it shows to me. Okay. Moreover, imagine that before the surgery, the particular shade of red would reliably agitate or excite the patient. Would the patient have such feelings now and say something like, I don't see red, but I notice that I've gotten a little tense? As described here, the patient would not, because such affective, emotional, or limbic reactions are themselves the types of functions that we are isolating from the color area. To be excited or calmed or distracted by a perceptual state of red, discrimination is already to have functional access to the state, however coarse-grained or incomplete, because such a reaction can obviously affect decision making or motivation. In spite of this frank denial by subjects, theories that deposit dissociation between consciousness and function would necessarily assume that participants of the perfect experiment are conscious of the apple's color, but simply cannot access that experience. Yeah. But see, again, they're defining conscious of it in a certain way. They're saying, well, that is the functional thing. Again, is that what other people mean by conscious? Nah, not really. After all, the conditions of these theories stipulate for a phenomenal consciousness of color are met, so this experiment does not disprove the existence of isolated consciousness. It merely provides another particularly crisp example of consciousness without access. Yeah, so you're conscious of it, but not all of your consciousness exists together. So you've got like split consciousness. So then I guess you might have to say, since like you are technically activating things, but they've cut off the access of that one area, that you have different parts of your brain that are differently conscious. It's like, okay, but that's weird. Yeah. However, there are crucial problems with this logic. If this perfect experiment could not definitively disprove dissociative theories, then what could? The subject manifests The subject manifests all the functional criteria for not being conscious of color, so what would ground the claim that the subject nevertheless enjoys a special kind of consciousness? Phenomenal consciousness without access consciousness. Yeah, so you would have like one part could see the red, but then the rest of your brain was still conscious but had no access to it. So you've got like a schism in your brain here. So it's like, it's weird. This is box 2. So this is this thing. I don't know. Okay. The domain of a science of consciousness. What the perfect experiment demonstrates is that science necessarily relies on cognitive functions in order to investigate consciousness. See, again, what do you mean by consciousness here? It's like you keep using that word. I don't know if you mean what I mean by using that word. They keep using the word saying the way they want to use it. So it's interesting. Small tangent. Look at pictures. I like pictures. Pretty pictures. For color projection for black and white. So black, green. So this is, what is this? So I'm not sure what I'm looking at here. Oh, so this is a different, so they filmed the same person and I guess in different sort of like lighting, because I don't know if you can see, but it looks like there's a line on the face. So they've sort of separated out how it would look under different filming conditions. There's a guy from WB, yeah, so Warner Brothers. Yeah, so if you're using different filming conditions, what would you actually color the different thing? So yeah. Evolve Yourself says that's a common issue throughout philosophical literature. That is, most people use different senses of the word consciousness. Yeah. Have I seen the set of the Black and White Addams Family show? No, I have not. The Inigo Montoya fallacy. What's the Inigo Montoya fallacy? Did he not kill his father and so he should not die? Yeah, and they don't adequately define consciousness. Yeah, so that's kind of how I feel going on here. It's like they have said, all right, we're not dealing with the hard problem. So it's like, okay, so you're dealing with all the easy problems, but no one ever said that you couldn't do that. That's why they're the easy problems, because they are amenable to science. That's what makes them the easy ones. Not that they're easy, but that you could do science on them. The hard problem is the one that you can't do science on. So they've defined themselves into a position where they're only doing the science ones. That's fine, but that's not going to convince anyone who believes a hard problem exists. So it's like, yes. It's like, yeah. So, okay, let's see what Anne has for us. Okay, wow, look at that. So yeah, so this was like gaudy. It had like, it's like yellow and pink with like crazy amounts of stuff going on. But in the black and white, it's just like, yeah, so this is the original Addams family set. That's amazing in some sense. Like, this is what they were acting, the scene they were acting in, and this is how it came out on film. And so it looks completely different in black and white versus this colored set. So yeah. It's designed to be shown in black and white, so the colors were weird. Yeah, because, I mean, the actors can act. They got used to the colors. But, like, it's designed to pop in black and white, and that it does. So it's like, yeah, but, like, the colors, I mean, not what you would expect. So that's very cool. Thank you. Refresh ready. So, boom. More AI art. All right, so here we go. Is this Dennett? Oh, Ivan Neo Dennett or something? What were we going to do? Look at that. That's fun. More Dennett, but he's looking sort of like Priestley. Yeah. Oh, okay. And then we got this and the Tron outfits. Nice. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Okay, this would be a great character in like a Tron movie. And then we've got like a trolley problem over here. Who is this one at the bottom? That's in semiotics. Yeah, different daddy takes. Yeah, that was funny. Aha, yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you. Completely forgot. Yeah. Luke, I'm your father. Yeah, so this was the Vader. Yes. Ivan says the hard problem says that phenomenal consciousness has a non-functional aspect. This paper is arguing that non-functional consciousness is untenable. If consciousness is functional, it can be explained with physics. Yeah, I agree with that's what the paper is doing. but it's not going to convince anyone that says it doesn't do it. So it's like, yes, that's 100% you're right. That's what they're doing. They're saying it's functional, and anything that we can do, like functionally, we can study with science. I agree. It's like, yeah. Anne says that even applies to makeup, like drag queen makeup resembles female faces, so they use contouring and color trickery. Also, theater makeup is super exaggerated to be seen as natural by the audience. Yes. Unreal Brian says the quote, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Oh, it's said by American actor Mandy Patinkin, who portrayed the swordsman Inigo Montoya in the 1987 romantic comedy The Princess Bride. Yeah. So the use of I didn't know they referred to as Princess Bride, because this has been going on in philosophy forever, where people start using words differently. But yes. Yeah, the trolley problem at the bomb. Unreal Brian had to go reboot and plug in. Wow, I'm sorry. Long stream, I apologize. One leather daddy, exactly. Yeah. There we go. Not Vader. Yeah, it's a little Vader-like. This jacket is kind of like Vader capey. But yeah. Number one is, I want your clothes, your books, and your metaphysics. Yes. Just take it. But Vader leaves. Leather daddy actually kind of works. Yes. That's exactly what I was saying. That's funny. Yeah. Well, no. I shouldn't have said just take it. That came later. See, I was like, you forgot to say please. All right, yeah. Rob Halford? I don't know who that is, but okay. But yeah, this is just great. Thank you. Where were we? Yeah, so the domain of a science of consciousness. Again, if you are trying to make science amenable, consciousness amenable to science, this is how you do it. This is one way to do it. I completely agree. The gay leather daddy, lead singer of Judas Priest. Oh, okay, fun. Okay, yeah. See, my lack of knowledge of things that mean things to people. There's no stupid metaphysics. All right, yeah. So yeah, this is the. I do not think this means what you think it means. Yeah, because they're doing the scientific version of functional consciousness. It's like, yeah, he's such a daddy. Oh dear, this is gonna be. This is the most terrible fucking chat I've had in a while, but it works. Yeah, getting on 2.5 hours. I'm going to be losing my voice. I'm going to be losing my mind soon. Awesome. All right. What the perfect experiment demonstrates is that science necessarily relies on cognitive functions in order to investigate consciousness. His authority is derived from his beard. Yeah. It's like Samson. His power is in his hair. So, yeah. And you can see I got no beard, so I have no power here. Without input from subjects, input that is the product of such functions, theorists are left to define consciousness based on certain types of activation that are independent of a subject's own experience. It has been claimed that separating consciousness from other cognitive functions is required because it is a prerequisite for using the term consciousness at all. Yeah, so again, this is who do you ask? If you have to separate consciousness from other cognitive functions, then what are you doing? Again, you have to already have a definition, a way of defining the functions and other stuff to do that. Yeah, so what does it mean to study consciousness without function? Inevitably, theories motivated by this view will define consciousness in their own way, local recurrency, microconsciousness, coalition of neurons, and say that whatever the criterion is met, consciousness must occur. But how do we set this criterion? Yeah. Unreal says, though I'm not the biggest fan of his approach to things, all must bow down to the power of Robert Brandam's beard. Yes, that's another good beard. For example, what reason is there to think that local recurrency is conscious experience? Could local recurrency simply be a form of unconscious processing? It cannot be based on subjective reports because these reports are the direct result of cognitive functions. But when an observer says, but in the Sperling display, I don't see just a few letters on the screen, I see all the letters, there is no reason to believe that such an experiment occurs independent of function. The fact that the observer is reporting on this visual experience proves that the experience has been accessed by a broader cognitive system as a whole. Lamb writes, quote, you cannot know whether you have a conscious experience without resorting to cognitive functions such as attention, memory, or inner speech. If this is, end quote. If this is true, then what reason is there to think this particular type of activation should be classified as correlating with conscious experience? Yeah, because that's, if you're saying, look, you're just recalling that your stuff, how is that the conscious experience? That's just you making stuff up after the fact. That's a good question. Okay. What does it mean to have conscious experience that you yourself do not realize you are having? In the face of such clear grounds for doubting such a conscious experience, dissociative theories need to provide a reason for claiming that these isolated types of activation involve any kind of consciousness. Yeah, so if you have any sort of brain activity, how is that going to be associated with the consciousness? Because any of your consciousness is you sort of like doing something else on top of that. It's like, well, what is it then? Why can't we point that out? And then as the authors are saying, if it's an after the fact thing, then it has nothing to do with your actual experience. Okay. The future of scientific theories of consciousness. It is clear then that proper scientific theories of consciousness are those that specify which functions are necessary for consciousness to arise. A true scientific theory will say how functions of attention, working memory, and decision making interact and come together to form a conscious experience. Any such theory will need to have clear and testable predictions that can, in principle, be verified or falsified. Most importantly, such theories will not claim that consciousness is a unique brain state that occurs independently of function. Instead, the focus will be placed on the functions themselves and how they interact and come together to form consciousness. What are they coming together then? What does this come together mean? I don't understand. Like how they come together and interact to form consciousness. I just don't get this at this point. If they're saying it is the function, then there is no coming together. It's just the function at the time. Then the coming together is the consciousness. But I don't understand that actual claim right there. Okay, so this book of Robert Halford is disturbingly like the AI art, with a little bit more bling. Nice. Let's see. Oh my god, that's great. So yeah, we've got that versus like this sort of stuff here. Oh, do we have a better one? Let's see if there's... No, not more bling, but like this one is just like... Yeah, there we go. Look at that. That's great. Look at that jacket. Oh, man. Fantastic. You got the nose ring on top of it. Pretty hot. Ivan says, the premise of the hard problem is that after you subtract out the physical function part of consciousness, there's something left over. This paper argues that there could never be anything left over that is detectable even by the alleged conscious agent. Yeah. That's right. That's basically what the paper says. I think you've nailed it. So yes. Again, though, they're saying it's defining it, that's saying there won't be anything left over. That is a good argument, but again, it's also not going to convince people that think there is more that will be left over. So it's like, yeah. Anne says, I think it has to do with the two layers of consciousness that Kahneman and Damasio talk about. Okay. I don't know what they exactly say. Is it like type 1 and type 2 thinking? Perhaps. Yeah, so maybe you're thinking the reflection, like the type 2 thinking is the... like that, we'd have to go look at the function of that, maybe. Thinking fast, thinking slow, yeah, okay. Have you seen his YouTube channel where he lectures with his giant beard and Jedi robes? No, I've not. Okay. So, yeah, so that would be a thing. It's like, okay, then we're going to go look at whatever the higher level, like the type 2 thinking is, or if that's the high level stuff. But again, that's defining consciousness as like some sort of unique reflection, and again, the people who are this is only going to convince people who are already on Dennett's side. This is giving a nice overview, but again, like, you're not going to convince someone who just is like, whatever, Dennett. So it's like, yes, but I mean, if you're already in the scientific paradigm, you're already in this sort of view, like, sure. So Ivan says system 1, system 2 are both functional, not related to phenomenal consciousness. Phenomenal philosophical zombies would have both. Yeah, but so I guess what Anne was saying was the part that he's calling consciousness here would be the type 2 part, the system 2 thinking. And so that would be just what we would be calling the deliberative sort of thought. So yeah. Yeah, it's like 2 layers, one that takes immediate decisions, like RAM info, and the other takes a bit longer, a bit process, like a 2-layer cake that unites at the end, thinking, but so fast you don't even notice it. Second layer is ROM. Yeah, so you can do the computer stuff, but again, the more reflective thinking, the stuff that you take more time doing, then you could still say that's functional, but you're seeing how that works. Okay. And that's what you're going to call consciousness. Sure. Okay, there are several theorists who have already realized the need for functions in developing theories of consciousness. Dehane and colleagues have put forth a global neuronal workspace model that claims consciousness is defined by the orientation of top-down attention. Yeah, so again, this is, I think, what Anne nailed it, the type 2, or system 2. Long-distance feedback loops that extend into periodofrontal networks and conscious reportability. Similarly, Coiter and colleagues have discussed at great length how information that is in consciousness relies on a hierarchy of representational levels. Under this view, each level corresponds to different cognitive mechanisms responsible for different units of representation. It is important to stress that both of these theories are merely in the beginning rather at the end of the study of consciousness. There is still much work to be done in regards to how these functions and mechanisms interact. In Dehaene et al. Theory, for example, a more thorough and specific understanding of the type of periodofrontal activation and how it relates to the formation of memories and decisions is still necessary. The upshot of function-based theories is that they make claims about consciousness that can be tested and examined scientifically. Although there are certainly those who disagree with the specifics of the theories put forth by Dehaene et al. And Coiter et al., these are disagreements that can eventually be settled through more rigorous examination and testing. The same cannot be said of theories that maintain that consciousness occurs independent of function. As the perfect experiment illustrates, such theories inherently prevent any future avenue for scientific research. Concluding remarks. Okay, we got videos being put in chat. Concluding remarks. Understanding the necessary relation between function and experience reveals the so-called hard problem of consciousness should be reclassified. Far from being a formidable obstacle to science, it achieves its apparent hardness by being systematically outside of science, not only today's science, but any science of the future that insists on dissociating consciousness from the set of phenomena that alone could shed light on it. And this is one of my, I have to say this is one of my beefs. It says, not only today's science, but any science of the future. How do we know what the science of the future is going to look like? That is always a problem for me. It's like, okay, you think, like, the people in the past thought they had the right science. We think we have the right science. We don't know what the science of the future is going to look like. And this is one of the problems. He's saying, well, then it's saying, look, the future of it, the hard problem is outside the current understanding of science as it's going forward. Okay, current understanding of science as it's going forward is not the end all be all of science. So it's like, this is where one of the reasons I get a little annoyed with these sorts of arguments. But yeah, okay. So yeah, it's outside our current scope of what we can study. But that doesn't mean it's actually going to be forever, because this assumes that science in the future is going to be just like the science of today. And it's not. It's just not. But okay. All right, this is not to suggest that consciousness is a mystery that the human mind cannot comprehend. It is simply that whatever mysteries and puzzles might continue to baffle us, we should not cripple our attempts at understanding by adopting a concept of consciousness that systematically blocks all avenues of further research. Yes, I would say maybe you shouldn't have a theory of science that blocks all avenues of current of research. So I'm on the other side of the coin there. I'm saying you have to get a better theory of science. They're saying you need a better theory of consciousness. Yeah. Luhmann says, if science means empirical, it seems like an acceptable claim to me, but I agree that they're baking some assumptions into it. Yeah. And I'm not like against what everything Dennett said here. Yes, I think all science should proceed as Dennett says here. I just don't know if that's how like it's going to be in 100 years. It's like, this is a fine way of proceeding, but don't tell me how to do my philosophy when I disagree with you, Dennett. It's just like, you have your position, I disagree with you, but it's like you also have assumed something about science I don't think is what we know. Like, I don't think science is going to stay this way. So it's like, okay. But, yeah, so, as Luhmann says, there's assumptions baked into this view of science. Viper says, I don't think it falls apart. Predictions of applied science are easy to ridicule, flying cars, etc., but it is reasonable to assume that our sensors will be able to resolve at a greater resolution. Yeah. Well, that's what I said. I think science should progress, as Dennett says. I just don't like Dennett making sweeping claims that like our science is going to be how it is forevermore, and that means our philosophy should conform to, science as it is right now. Maybe the philosophy has to, go a little ahead, go beyond the science, and then the science will catch up. And then sometimes, of course, science has to rein in the philosophy too. It's like that happens. But I mean, it's just like I'm not in a position to say where we are. Is the philosophy ahead of the science, or is the science ahead of the philosophy? Yeah. All right. This last paragraph. The issues raised here generalize beyond the specific theories discussed. Any theory wherein the neural correlates of conscious experience are separate from the neural correlates of cognitive function is ultimately doomed. No matter the specifics of a theory, see fibers firing, grandmother cells winning, coalitions, micro-consciousness, recurrent processing, and so on, it is always possible, in principle, to isolate this activation. Such imagined isolation, however, actually removes the experience in question from further testing, scrutiny, and verification. Although these theories might provide considerable insight into the formation of internal representations of the sensory and perceptual world, that is not enough to explain one's personal awareness. A proper theory of consciousness cannot exclude focus on how the brain forms and maintains representations. Such a theory must also explain, in functional terms, how those representations are experienced and accessed by the multiple functions constituting an observer. Theories that do not acknowledge this are fundamentally incapable of explaining the full scope of consciousness. Luhmann says, now that I think about it, I think maybe everyone on all sides of philosophy of mind, consciousness debate is just assuming the solutions in advance, and the argument is retrofitting evidence that is only relevant in light of what they've already assumed. Luminance, that's everybody all the time, always. Like, yeah, of course. We're always doing that shit. Ivan says the inference is pretty straightforward. If phenomenal consciousness has no function that cannot affect measurable reality, for example, a person's ability to speak about their own experience, turning neurons on and off, etc., is not, etc. It's not a question of technological advance in science. Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, you have to assume from the big if at the beginning. Yeah. You just did a presentation on this? Yes. And you have the same questions as above. Yeah, I mean, that's, again, if you are assuming this functional attitude from the get-go, sure. Like, yes, Dennett is a competent philosopher. I think the arguments mostly hold up. We had our gripes along the way. Like, I was pointing out certain things I didn't love. But, like, again, if this is your assumption of what science is doing, like, it's looking at these functional things, yeah, this is the stuff that science says exists, and then everything else is ruled out. If you're saying our experience is not like this and science is only looking at a restricted set of reality, then you're going to be trying to find some new way to modify the science to capture more of our reality. Luhmann says, well, I've always thought the hard problem of consciousness makes no sense, but then can't really agree with Dennett either because his criticism assumes it makes sense but is just wrong. Yeah. So again, if you have problems with what is consciousness fundamentally, then any arguments on this area are going to look a little weird. Like you can say like what I was just saying. This is a good way of continuing research into consciousness. I don't disagree with what Dennett is up to in practice. I disagree with some of his philosophy here. Like, that's it. Like, I think this is probably the best way to go is to, like, do what he's saying here. Because that's the best that, like, our theories of mind are providing us. That doesn't mean I think our theories of mind or something, or mind or science are in any way, like, finished, where I don't see us that different from how we were like 100 years ago, 200 years ago. It's like in the grand scheme of humanity, we're not that different. So it's like, okay, but I also like, I feel like hubris in saying, well, this other position, the minority position, or whatever it is, the hard problem position is just silly. It's like, well, I'm not so sure about that. Luhmann says, what is the operator is doing in the question, what is consciousness? I think no one really knows, and it leads to immense confusion. Yeah. So again, Dennett is saying, look, it's consciousness is these functions that the brain is doing, and yeah. All right, so let's get the rating going. As always, if you're here in chat, you are welcome to rate the paper we just read. And it's like, yeah, what is consciousness? We don't know, but Dennett has position here. What do you think about this paper? Was it fun? Did it make your brain dance? You say brain dance. Grapes, do you think it had big claims that shriveled up? Then you give it nog grapes. If you think it was navel gazing only for academics, you give it a nog navel. If it was for Ouroboros for deeper ancient questions, that's nog oro. You give it the scream, nog scream for existential artistic drama. Nog turd for all style, no substance, still poop underneath. And nog knife for slicing and dicing arguments. And there's also the vote yay, vote nay. Oh god, I forgot to fix that. And the vote meh. Okay, Ivan gave it a yay, a brain dance, a knife, and even an Ouroboros. Yeah. And Tinderos also gave it a yay and a brain dance. Thank you for rating. Unreal Brian says, for me, I think it's kind of like my thing with free will, determinism question. I think that the terms in which we express the question here, consciousness, is a reification of something a bit sideways of what we really want to talk about and thus lead us astray. Why would you... Luminance, you are in chat. That therefore, you are allowed to rate. That is how this works. It does not... You can be mean if you want. Like, that's perfectly acceptable. If you're in chat, you get to rate. So, yeah. Vipers gave it a brain dance, a scream, and knife, and a vote yay. Okay, so we've got a few people here. Get your rating. If you can't see... Like, if you can only see the emotes in chat below, it's the Better TTV extension for Twitch, and it helps out a lot of stuff. You'd be surprised how much it can help out in Twitch. But, yeah. What am I going to call this? I don't think this was bad. I think it was good paper. I'll give it a vote yay. Like I said, just because I disagree with stuff doesn't mean it was a bad paper here. Like, this is fine. Unreal says nay. I think in the end it would be more... less along the direction they're going, but this is so shittily expressed. I'm really disappointed. Expected one better from Dennett. Dennett, I don't want to say panders to his audience, but I get a sense that basically he's not convincing. Like every time I've read one of these shorter articles by him, he doesn't convince me at all. It's really just like sort of not pandering to the crowd, but he's sort of summarizing the position in a way that's like well said. And so it's like, I'm going to give him grapes too, I think. No, I might give him grapes or a turd. I'm not sure. Because it just feels like it's not like the substance I want. It's like it's a good article, but it's still like kind of crappy. It's like, this is how sometimes like good philosophers, like they can seemingly say a lot, but in the end, I kind of just got like like it was well said, but I just think it was thin. And so he's going to get a nog turd from here. You're getting it's a yay and a turd, which is unusual. Imagine being dead and finding out that F-Life was true. That would be like the best and worst news at the same time, yeah. Me perfumed pew. Well, see, that's exactly. So I've got the yay and the turd. So it's like, this is an unusual paper because usually those are mutually exclusive. But in this case, it's like, it's kind of crap, but it was really well done crap. It's like the definition of poo. But like, I don't think it's a bad read, especially if you were interested in sort of a Dennett version of the world. Yeah. Loomis says, I don't really have a problem with the paper. It doesn't feel like it's breaking new ground. Yeah, it's a lot of summaries. But I don't know which emote conveys. I think the whole field on the quiz is confused. You can do vote meh. There's a vote meh. So, yeah. And so you can do contradictory emotes. It will be taken into account. Does... Yeah. So it's yay means it's just a global up, thumbs down. There's nothing else to it. So yeah. Oh, you missed the. I can fix that later. And if you don't vote meh, yeah, because it has to be spelled correctly. Unfortunately, I fucked up my vote nay. I gotta fix this. Can I fix that right here? Oh, no wonder I got this fucking shit all messed up. Nope, wrong one. Where was I? I was was here. Nope, I was here. Haha! Yeah. Okay, you think you decide what you're gonna do? Okay, so we get a yay knife and a navel gazing. Yeah, so exactly. A little bit, there. So it's a bit better. I still have to get it off the side of the screen, but yeah. Viper says right now a study of a brain is like looking like a desktop CPU through FLIR infrared camera. You wouldn't be able to discern its operation at that resolution, but it's reasonable to assume that they'll be better in the future. Yeah. The trouble in predicting science comes when you try to be specific, not in saying that science will continue sciencing. But like imagine you are like, before the quantum revolution. And you're saying, look, we're at the end of physics. Everything's just, particles flying around. It's like, well, all we need is a little bit better resolution, and we'll get down to the atoms, and we'll have the resolution to see the atoms, and we'll see the particles, and we'll be able to measure that, and we'll be done. And that wasn't that long ago in the history of science. And so it's like, this is just, 120, 140 years, whatever it is, like when quantum phenomena started showing up. And it's like, well, that's how things are. It looks like it's just a question of resolution, and it's not always a question of resolution. There are sometimes more phenomena that we did not realize. And so it's kind of hard. Show me my quantum ruler. Yeah. We don't even know what chairs are. And we see those perfectly well. Well, I mean, do we not know what chairs are? Like, Luminance, you're going to tell me you don't know what a chair is? Like, seriously, dude? Like, are there, like, no chairs in your room right now? Like, you're not sitting on a chair? Like, that's kind of weird, man. Yeah, see, I think at that point, this is why I'm like, I have a hand. I'm sitting on a chair. I have no problem with that sorts of shit. I mean, there's problems when we get to trying to say anything more complicated about that. But what do you mean know what a chair is? I know what a chair is. Jackass. Well, in that sense of no, we already know consciousness. Well, we experience it, yes. We have experience of consciousness. Now, if you want to, like, explain... Well, I don't have a problem explaining what chairs are for the most part either. But, like, yeah, I guess if you want to talk about, like, maybe there's a problem with what it is to explain consciousness. But, like, explaining chairs doesn't seem that hard, though, either. Viper says there will be paradigm shifts, yes, but they don't erase the previous science. It is still useful at a certain scale, and we know the scale's involved. Yeah, but see, that's the issue here. It's like, okay, if you're saying it's just a resolution problem, you can't say that if there's paradigm shifts like on the horizon, we just don't know it yet. And so my version of science is a lot more shaky, I know, than other people's. That's on me. All right, let's get only 60 seconds left on this. If you want to get your rating in, 60 seconds to go. Otherwise, cool. So I mean, maybe it's a question of what it is that we're trying to do here. Maybe it's not, as other people have said, I think DCI was just saying this, or was it Unreal? Blanking already what just got said. But it's Unreal. The question is, maybe what we're trying to describe here is not the right thing. Maybe we already know the experience of it. Maybe what we want to do is be able to recreate it someplace else, and not explaining it in the sense that we can explain other things is not the right phenomena. Maybe we need to do something different. So that's possible. This is a classic example of something that should be simple, but no one ever figured out the necessary and sufficient conditions. Yeah, so are we trying to find out the necessary and sufficient conditions for consciousness? Now, that actually raises a good issue. Because if you take Dennett's word for it, we already have basically we already have basically all the necessary conditions. We already have brains that are conscious. We just don't know the exact thing that's going on. But we're gonna get there given enough time. So it's again, it seems very, very ambitious for our ability to explain things when I'm not sure we even have the phenomena pinned down yet. Yeah. Exactly. That's what I meant. That's what I mean. Everyone already assuming that we have consciousness, we know what consciousness is, and then design experiments to make sense if you assume that definition. Yeah, and this is my problem with a lot of science. So yeah, both sides of the debate are assuming what's really at issue. No debate is even happening. Well, yeah, then you need to have people having new theories of phenomenology, new theories of what consciousness is. So that would be different. So if you're sticking to any one theory that we currently have that is sort of begging the question of what consciousness is. It's a good point. And so we need more phenomenology. We need a phenomenology of consciousness, which, it sounds like begging the question, because what else is phenomenology except for describing our consciousness? But maybe we need a better phenomenology at the moment, a more specific one to, get the right phenomena down. Or at least, even in the Dennett side of the world, you'd still need to do research into where what the functional thing is that we need to look at. Answers like class consciousness means something completely different. Yeah. Hashtag Marx. Okay. Yeah. We love Marx here. Yeah. So. Yee. Oh, my timer's up. Okay. That's it for this then. Yay. I got done. It was a short paper because I didn't read all the boxes here. But yeah, not a bad paper. I mean, I don't think I have a whole lot to say. It's just Dennett is doing the Dennett thing. This is the hardcore science. Shut the fuck up, you crazy metaphysicians and you consciousness nerds. And it's all right. What you say, if there's we're only looking at functional stuff. That's all that science can do. Then that's all you're gonna get. It's yeah, okay. But that's fine. It's yeah, it's fine, and I agree that this is a good way to go if this is what you want to look at. Now, again, from my position, I'm just things change over time. We've had multiple paradigm shifts in fundamental science in the last X amount of years. Whatever.